Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony, some within a fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comments below on your thoughts on the story, and finally, some my opinion. My opinion is I am taking up in the world, everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, I am back with the Luniverse. I am legitimately so close. I have about six. I have about six fics left. I am actually halfway through the Contest of Champions, which is the longest of the fics at like 435,000. And once I get through that, I should be pretty much in the clear. Once I finish Contest of Champions, I'm probably going to do an update just showing what fan fics I'm going to do after I finish the universe, because the other fics are not going to take that long. They're going to take like maybe a day or probably like a day or two to read through them all. Yeah, but I want to get these two fixed through because these are the ones before Contest of Champions. So let's get through it. So the first story I am doing is The Great Dragon Coronation by Rainbow Double Dash. This is actually a very interesting fic. It doesn't really. This one's probably the weakest plot, like overall overarching plot wise, of the Luniverse, because it doesn't really do much. It probably would have. It probably would have mattered more if the universe continued, but as it stands, for what we have right now, this technically doesn't really. This is more like an insular story that kind of just it kind of doesn't really stretch past what it is, but it is part of the World Tour series, and it is actually kind of important to the whole thing. So, what is the plot? Well, the plot is Cheryl and Raindrops. They're basically in Pietrek, I think. I cannot pronounce. I cannot pronounce that. I cannot pronounce it. Wait. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Preferred, preferred, which is basically just the My Little Pony equivalent to Sweden. Oh, oh, the Swedish chocolate in our no, that's Germany. Oh, the Swedish chocolate and all the swatches, and also the Ricola. Don't forget the Ricola. So, Shirley and Raindrops, they're basically just there, kind of just relaxing, because they're technically meant to talk to the people that living there and kind of get everything settled to kind of see how they're doing in terms of like legions, like showing off, like, hey, we're normal people too, despite the fact we're unholy weapons, and the only thing really protecting you from an evil, psychotic mayor who likes to smite things with the sun. Uh, when they see a smorgasbord of dragons flying over them. So why are all these dragons? Well, it turns out the dragons now have an overlord, and the first overlord in centuries, apparently. And apparently, the dragonic overlord basically has a whole thing. It's like you can only be overlord if you basically just constantly beat up dragons, and you got to keep beating them up to prove that you're the dragons. Like, yeah, I'm in charge. So they're thinking, oh, it looks like it's not that bad, and then the dragon just shows up in Petervik saying, you two come with me. Okay, Charlie, what do you do? Can we take on a dragon? I don't think we can take on a dragon. What if we say no? Dragon Overlord said, I have to. So we can do this the easy way, we can do this the hard way. Please do the easy way. I don't want to do it the hard way. I'll do it if I have to. Go with him? Go with him. So, the dragon picks him up, takes him to the dragon, the forge, which is where the Overlord is supposed to rule. At the same time, with Corona, her dragon helper soul. Hold on. What the hell? What is this? Soul Rathikaran. I forgot how long that name is. So I'll just call him Solrath. He probably would be bitter about that because like names are power for dragons. Here's all the calls. Finds out, hey, Dragon Overlord has been named. He goes to Celestia about this. Like it's like Solrath, what's going on? It's like what's going on. A new Overlord. I'm not deal. I'm going to take this on. Solrath rightly points out, it's like as powerful you think you are, as powerful you are. I don't think even you can defeat a literal army of dragons. I'm right. Reluctantly, you're right. So what do we do? Simple. No one's allowed to be Overlord but me. But I don't think they really want to deal with the cripple. It's like, I may be blind, but I'm not out. But I can't hit. But I'm not deaf. I heard that. So basically, Solrath decides to go to the fort specifically to prevent the Overlord from sticking around because he's the only one allowed to be Overlord, and he doesn't want anyone else to do it. So all three of them, separate, go to the forge. They see an army of dragons, like all the dragons as far as I can see. And they're like, all right, who is this Overlord of Dragons? So they see this giant, like 90-foot long black dragon. And I completely forgot what the thing is called. Where the hell? Where the hell is he? No. I completely forgot what the hell this guy was named. Oh yeah, no, that's different. Wait a second. I know that he's the name's somewhere here. Let's see, where is he? Yeah, here it is. Sajak. Sit. I'm gonna butcher the shit out of this name. I am Sajak Stir Curviatal Thiksha Post Butha. Nailed it. More likely butchered it. So they're like thinking, oh, it's this guy, this motherfucker we have to deal with. And even so, Catron's like, I think I can take him. It's like, I am not the one I'm the one issuing who the Overlord is. Behold, our new Overlord. His name is Spike. What? Ha! And of course, here comes Spike with the Alicorn Amulet. Holy shit. Now, if you don't know what the Alicorn Amulet is, this is the Alicorn Amulet, written by Best Pony. Here's, hi Trixie. That's the great power for Trixie to you. So, for those of you who don't know, the Alicorn Amulet is this really powerful magical stone that inside I think it's called a pectoral. It's supposed to be like the chest piece that you put on a horse or something like that. It's supposed to be like that. And it gives the user unimaginable power, but it actually slowly corrupts the whoever uses it. Dragons are resistant to magic, which is why Spike is able to like resist the power. Unlike in the show, Trixie kind of just fully succumbs to it like immediately. And then kind of goes crazy with like, I want a carriage with no wheels. So now they're dealing with a very specific situation because they kind of realize that Spike's kind of acting off being selfish because his whole thing is that Spike wants a family. Spike basically has like trauma from being abandoned by Sakura, being treated like dirt by Corona, and being just left to the dust. So he basically found the Alicorn Amulet, decided I'm going to go to where the dragons live, which is the forge, it's where dragons are raised. I'm going to beat up whoever's in charge of the whole thing. I'm going to consider myself the leader of the dragons, specifically to basically just be their boss and be have a family. But the amulet is actually slowly corrupting him and kind of making him more greedy because the dragons are naturally greedy. So they have to fix. So Charlie and Raindrops are trying to figure out what are we going to do with this. They speak to Vaus. I'm going to call him Vaus, who explains that Dragonkind is literally wiping itself out. Basic, more or less, in the Ludiverse, dragons are such an apex predator that that the only people who can hunt them are other dragons. So this kind of has led to a sort of species, a slow stagnation and extinction of dragons, as dragons are so naturally greedy because it's all they're raised by. When they're born to when they get like become adults, they're mental. They want to hoard. They want to keep everything because that's how they. Because hoarding gold is actually how they grow. So they all just become super greedy and just immediately distrust anyone and everyone around them. You can't have friends because you can't have friends with other dragons because they may stab you in the back. You can't fall in love and have kids with other dragons because they may stab you in the back. Even your kid, you can't even raise kids because those kids may stab you in the back, just for the sake of being more greedy. Voss realizes it he eventually gave up on wanting to fix dragon because it turns out Voss is actually friends with Cadence, and he was actually like an angry dragon once. He got beat up by Cadence, and he's like, and Cadence basically like, you're gonna fix the city. It's like, what if I don't want to go again? It's like, all right. So he basically spent a lot of time around ponies, trying to fix up parts of Cavalia, and he basically realized he realized what was like wrong with Dragonkind. Like Dragonkind has apexed itself to the point where they're literally killing themselves because of just inherent greed and selfishness, and he wants to fix that, but he doesn't know how to because he thinks so. That's why he's letting Spike rule because like, okay, Spike made this is a dragon. Now it's technically raised by ponies. Technically, in the universe, he was raised by Sakura, but yeah, same old, same old. So like, okay, maybe he can do it. Except Spike doesn't know how to do it because he's having such mental trauma from the fact that he's relying on one out and a corruptive amulet, and two, the fact that he's not really all there in the head he's because he's kind of dealing with a lot of trauma. On the other side, you have Soul Wrath, who actually has what's called the Rainbow of Darkness, which was basically a artifact that was owned by T-Rex. This is basically just a My Little Pony Generation 1 reference that was filled with, which was just an item full of hate that was able to. It was the sole reason why T-Rex was able to hold his own against Celestia and Luna, and now Soul Wrath has it. He's going to use and he wants to use the Rainbow of Darkness to basically not only defeat Spike because it's like, oh, I can do that, but also to eventually get Celestia out of the way because even Soul Wrath is like, I know Celestia doesn't trust me, but I know Celestia doesn't know I have this, and I know for a fact this is one of the only things that can legitimately kill her. So I want to keep this close to my chest. However, what happens is God, I keep hearing shit. I'm getting paranoid with the storm coming up. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. Soul Wrath wants to use this situation with the Overlord as a way to kind of test out how to use the Rainbow Darkness. What happens? Well, during the final fight, because he has he's controlling a corrupted what was Kalaxkar Therlorux under his control, basically just twisted, and Raindrops, Charlie, and Spike and Viles have to team up against these two. Raindrops basically gets the Rainbow of Darkness And he's like, "Oh, you want it? Here, catch!" And basically just throws it inside Solrat's mouth, and actually fuses with him. So we kind of get a cliffhanger. Solrat realizing, wait, the Rainbow Darkness has fused me. I can use this. And also the story kind of ends with Spike, Vouse, and a DH Clax because Clax kind of just basically due to exposure with burning from the Rainbow Darkness, kind of became like a child, and he's like, well, I can't change the species at once, but maybe I can change one dragon at a time and work from there. And it's like it ends on a hopeful message, and like Spike goes with Charlie and Raindrops back to Equestria, and it kind of ends on like a slightly happier note. Do I think the plot is good? It's all right. There's a reason why I said this is technically the weakest of the War Tour arc because the simple fact that since the story never progressed past this story, it there wasn't really any payoff to like a lot of the things that were done with the story, like with Spike possibly befriending Twilight, or the whole thing with Solrath absorbing the Rainbow Darkness. There's a lot of plot threads that just never are followed up on because the whole series is kind of abandoned. So that kind of leaves the story in like a really, really bad place. I do think the overall plot is fine. I even like the nice touch that Solrath technically wins because his whole plan was I just want to just make sure there's no Overlord, and technically by Spike leaving, Solrath does win. There is no more Overlord. So I think that's fine. That's fine for what it is. Uh, do I think the plot could be better? I mean, yeah, but this is like a situation where I think it really needed more stuff. This is a story that needed like follow up, and there's not going to be any follow up. So yeah, I think that's all they can do with the plot. The characters, I think the characters are fine. Charlie and Raindrops aren't really are kind of there. This story is all about the dragon, Solrath, and Clax, and Vouse and Spike. I think all four of those are fine. Solrath is a good villain for this one off. He's more or less this kind of like the only time he's really going to be relevant as like a villain. The rest of the time, it's really just going to be Kindle, except for Constant Champions. He's kind of where Kindle's kind of having to play like a reluctant good guy. I think Solrath is fine. Voss being like a wise dragon who spent so much time with ponies, he looked back at his kind and he realized we're gonna kill ourselves. We're not gonna die because we're being hunted or because of other situation. No, we're going to die off because of our own greed and selfishness and not realizing that we cannot rely on that anymore. And it's a neat wrinkle. Clox is fine too, being like a one-off character, being like, oh, she's just a selfish dragon. But Spike, I think Spike was good. I think Spike was a fine enough technically main character. He's kind of the main character along with Charlie and Raindrops. I think he's fine. Like bridging the whole idea of like insanity and greediness and like who Spike is, because unlike Charlie, who had to be tricked to take off the mask, since Spike was resisting the magic, he kind of realized that Raindrops and Charlie are kind of like being nice and want him to like you need to take off you need to take it off because otherwise you're gonna turn like this. You're gonna turn into what the other dragons you see around you. He realizes that that's not who he wants, so he just willingly takes off and throws it in the lava and breaks the damn thing. I think it's great. I think his character arc throughout the entire story is fine, not too deep. Grammar errors, I didn't see any grammar errors. There could be grammar errors with like the dragon names because like God, these names are really fucking long. Because the whole thing is like, oh, dragons need to have the more you've done, the longer your name gets. So, which is why like some of these dragons are like really fucking long. It's like I did a lot, so my name's like gigantic. Pacing. This is a very short story. I think it's paced fine enough because there's not really much you're going to be able to do with this version of dragons because they're just always going to be like by themselves. And I just realized there's Spike right there. I just noticed. Look at that. It's so funny. This is probably Soul Wrath right here. I think it's fine. Would I recommend this story? Yeah, I think it's fine enough. I just really wish there was follow up on it. I can't really have anything more to say about this. Let's move on to the next story. The Glass Kingdom, also by Rainbow Double Dash. So, in this story, Trixie, I almost said Twixie, and Lyra go to a place called Zaldia, which is a very, very tribalistic, ponyified version of Tsarist Russia. Holy fucking shit. So, what's the plot for this? Well, Trixie and Lyra are basically there as part of the cultural thing to kind of talk to the king of Zaldia, where Trixie is constantly getting pissed off by the person in charge to talk to the king. Basically, it's like, oh, I got this little map. It's like gift to gift. He's like, you're bribing, huh? You're bribing me. I call guards. Guards. Yes, she's bribing me. I didn't even know what was going on. Did you bring this map to customs? Like, yeah, they said it was okay. Okay, it seems to be a cultural misunderstanding. You're not going to do anything, right? No. So, Zaldia is a very, very paranoid country. Basically, they think Equestrians always out to get them, and they're also very tribalists. Like, to the point where, like, Earth ponies are more or less slaves, and they're, like, okay with that. And even, like, Pegasi, they don't exist. They don't exist in this country. They just ran away to Cavalia. And, like, the Glass Kingdom's like, no, you stole them. You slave owners. They ran away. No, you kidnapped them. They're ours. And they're it's a genuinely horrible country to live in. To the point where, like, even, like, the Garase, which is basically their police force, is basically the Okrana from Tsarist Russia. Basically, like, you didn't see anything. There was no Trixie and Lyra here, or other members of the Equestrian Embassy. Say anything, we will deal with you. And even, like, we don't give a fuck what the treaty says. We will literally torture you and interrogate you, and you will fucking deal with it. It's a very dark place. So going back to the plot, they find out that there was a robbery from the armory, which has these 12 trinkets that are specifically meant as, like, the final defense against the Luna. So, like, in case Luna tries to invade Zaldia, which she will do, they're just, again, super paranoid. They get kidnapped by the High Mage. Where was it? It Magicoa Espelu Magicoa, who is basically the High Mage of Zaldia. He's basically, like, technically the second command to the king. And Magicoa wanted to take over the Glass Kingdom for basically wanting to get rid of like the tribalism. We wanted to deal with the tribalism. I think that's fine. And even, like, I think even in universe, they kind of, like, understand, like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but he's still working for Celestia because he did all this at the behest of Celestia via Kindle, because Kindle shows up here, and they kind of have to Trixie and Lyra get arrested in the kingdom, and have to try and find what's going on. They do an investigation to find out Magicoa did the whole thing, and they face off against Magicoa and Kindle Underground as they're trying to get away and all that. Kindle gets away because after fighting Lyra, and Trixie manages to deal with Magicoa. Turns out the guy she's Trixie talked to in the beginning was actually an undercover agent for the Gurase, who has been investigating Magicoa for possible subterfuge and a possible coup. So they arrest him, and then it turns out the most paranoid country in the entire equestrian world is being taken over by a changeling, because technically, the story, yeah, the changelings are basically taking over high positions. Ha! The irony. I think they're coming. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, it's kind of ironic. The most paranoid nation in the universe being the most vulnerable to an invasion of copycat vampire deceivers. Yep, that's it. Because they're paranoid because it's not the equestrian, so they're that. It is a neat story. I didn't gloss over. I kind of glossed over a lot in this story because this story is very, very kind of weird, because it does. This is another story like the Dragon Coronation, because it does. This would have something more and like follow up, because the reason why Celestia sent Kindle this whole thing was not because of all the other relics, but specifically because of a ring that's specifically supposed to deal with the mirror pool, as shown with too many Keratops. It's supposed to deal with that, except again, it's never going to be followed up on. So there's not really much we can do with it. Do I think this story is better than Dragon Conspiracy? Yeah, it is. I do like the contrast between Equestria, which is like, we want to, like everyone's kind of like equal, versus Zaldi, who's like a very, very unicorn supremacist country, to the point where like Pegasi don't even exist in the country, and Earth ponies are more or less just slave labor. So it is a neat contrast between like how Equestria works versus how this country works, and seeing like Lyra and Trixie kind of deal with that, and like how it all works. I think it's fine. Character wise, there's not really much in the way of character. That's kind of just mainly because this one focuses more on the cultural aspects of the world instead of the character dynamics. I think that's fine for this, because it's really meant to showcase the differences between the Zaldia and the rest of the world. So I think for that, it's fine. Even if Trixie and Larry didn't really go through much of a character arc here, with so many stories still, with only a couple stories left, I think it's fine. So grammar wise, I do remember, I think there was a couple grammar errors. I think it was minor. Pace wise, I think it's paced pretty perfectly. Ignore this. That was like a comment I made, because like some guy constantly always seeing one guy show up in a bunch of these stories, kind of like wanting to hurt people. Kind of weird. Also, why you should never take fan fiction super seriously. Take it like a jokey matter, like me. But I do think this story is fine. I don't think overall it's better than Great Dragon Coronation. I think this one's slightly worse. But I do think they're still good, solid stories. I would recommend this story, uh, but more from like a storytelling perspective. If you're looking for like deep characters, like any character growth from these stories, read other stories. They just do the job better. But in terms of like wanting to see like a solid world building experience, this is fine. Anything I would fix about these two stories? Honestly, the only thing I could say would be they really do need follow up, both of them. But I know that's never going to happen. As for my favorite part, I don't really have a favorite part for these. These are just two solid stories. I don't have anything else to say about it. So this has been Dark Symphony 777. and cut.